And we are live, allegedly. Copy link. Good morning, everybody. My name is Bear with bearindependent.com, and this morning we are going to be discussing the Pentagon's secret army, as well as Biden's comment that the unvaccinated are going to pay, whatever that means precisely. We'll look at that a little bit, what he actually said, and also gas shortages and supply chain logistics and all of that. So we'll go ahead and get started. Greatly appreciate you coming along for the ride. If you're new here, please like, subscribe, and share. That helps us in our battle against the YouTube algorithmic robots. You can and should support us on patreon.com. It's $1 a month or $10 per year minimum to get started. There's over 100 pieces of exclusive content per month there. It is not an I love me, you should love me too page. And lastly, please check out our small businesses at bearindependent.com and refugemedical.com. Fabulous. 19 May 21, capacity for transport is still limited with the port delays and driver shortages, but other issues are piling on top of pre-existing supply chain chaos. Also be advised, I am under a tin roof with light rain, and if that rain gets heavy enough that my signal quality degrades significantly, we will cut the feed, because I know so many of you are audiophiles who gnash your teeth at poor audio quality. Continuing, the temporary I-40 bridge shutdown in Memphis, Tennessee, due to an overlooked crack in the infrastructure, has added to supply chain issues. Not only does that bridge carry freight traffic, but it also spans the Mississippi River, a major vein for barge traffic. The shutdown of river traffic impacted Memphis's port, which is the fourth largest inland port in the United States. Additionally, 2 different trains carrying supplies like propane, fertilizer, and ammonium have been derailed recently, one in Minnesota and one in Iowa. Both trains amount to about 97 train cars of commodities. These issues have been resolved locally, but the effects are still rippling back through the flow of goods and supplies. Brief pause. I found it very interesting that 2 trains in the middle of nowhere, within a week of each other, all of a sudden had issues where they derailed. It almost feels like somebody messed with the tracks. And I have, to be perfectly clear, at this point, 0 evidence that that's the case. There is 0 evidence that I have that foul play is at hand here. However, it just feels awful damn coincidental, and you guys know how I feel about coincidences. Now, I know that there are trains that come off the tracks every day of the week somewhere in the country, but this one feels a little strange, and it could be, I'm not saying that it is, but it could be the beginning of escalations from a low-intensity conflict here in the United States to something a bit more than that. Moving along. Similarly, the Colonial Pipeline is now fully operational, but the issue hasn't been exactly fully resolved. There are still stations without gas, especially in Atlanta and D.C., simply because it takes time for the system to recover. Reuters reported that prices are at a 7-year high after thousands of stations were left without fuel. The media outlet pulled information from tracking firm GasBuddy, which noted the following: 11,667 gas stations were without fuel, down from a peak last week of more than 15,000 stations. Panic buying caused 90% of fuel stations in Washington, D.C. to run out as of Monday. That figure had dropped to 69%. Outages in North Carolina fell to about 50%, while outages in South Carolina, Georgia, and Virginia were under 50%. So still downstream ramifications of that. There's some contention that has broken out after Biden's recent comments that unvaccinated people will be the ones to pay the price, air quote, for not getting the vaccine, with both their personal health and the health of their loved ones. Some agree and think vaccines should be mandatory, vaccinating people against their will, while others view his comments as insulting and fear-mongering. It's not just the White House. The push to vaccinate is intense across the board. Public figures are repeatedly using their airtime to encourage everyone to get vaccinated, and both consequences and incentives from institutions and states are increasing. Most notably, Ohio has seen the biggest spike in vaccination in 3 weeks after implementing a $5 million lottery for vaccinated individuals. And if your integrity can be bought with something as simple as a chance to win a few $1,000,000, shame on you. Despite repeated claims that the vaccine is completely safe and everyone should get it if they love their elders, neighbors, and so on, there are still concerns about both long-term and short-term safety. It's really no wonder that people who are concerned about this new mRNA vaccine, when the headlines read, "Blood experts say he found why some COVID-19 vaccines trigger rare clots," and "Could the AstraZeneca vaccine cause Guillain-Barre Syndrome?" Guillain-Barre Syndrome, excuse me. We don't know yet. And, quote, "Could COVID-19 vaccines cause male infertility?" End quote. The answer is nuanced. Several outlets have reported about one famous individual who received the vaccine, Eric Clapton, who now suffers from peripheral neuropathy and regrets ever having gone near the needle, is calling it propaganda that the vaccine was safe for everyone. Needless to say, the reactions were disastrous. My hands and feet were either frozen, numb, or burning, and pretty much useless for 2 weeks. I feared I would never play again. Well, that's a little bit different than the messaging from the powers that be. Let's scoot over here. By the way, if you're on Patreon, you got this report uploaded to you last night. And if you're on Patreon now and on YouTube now, you have these show notes in the description. Do we even have a live stream? We do. 438 folks. Good morning, everybody. Good morning to everybody in the chat. Moving right along. From localmemphis.com, from barges to trucking, how the I-40 Hernando de Soto Bridge shutdown could affect the supply chain. You know, pausing briefly there, the full court media press that has been required to get even some compliance of the bobble-headed populace to take the emergency use authorized, non-FDA approved vaccines, air quote, against the novel coronavirus is absolutely stunning. If it was as good as you say it is, the issue that you would have is getting on the air telling people to please be patient, everybody. We will have enough vaccine to go around. Women, children, and elderly first. Men, gut it out. We will have vaccines for you too. Do your part for America and have patience while we produce. It would be the opposite end of the spectrum. It would be a different problem altogether. And the fact that most people, unfortunately, simply don't care or believe what they're told. I wonder about America as a whole and people in general a lot of the time. But if this thing was as bad, or I'm sorry, as good as they say it is, they would have the opposite problem. You don't have a flash sale on something when sales are great, okay? When sales are great, no, you charge full price and you have limited quantities, which creates even more demand. No. Something stinks on the old vaccination. Localmemphis.com. From barges to trucking, how the I-40 Hernando de Soto Bridge shutdown could affect the supply chain. Memphis, Tennessee, shutting down the I-40 Hernando de Soto Bridge is considered a major disruptor to the supply chain. Not only is it affecting freight traffic on the highway, but barge traffic on the Mississippi River is shut down in Memphis. Transportation experts have said the bridge shutdown will put a further strain on the supply chain, which is already struggling. By the way, shout out to everybody who's listening to us in a car, a truck, a Peterbilt right now, who's driving and can't comment, but would love to. We appreciate y'all, and to all our Tier 1 operators out there, current and former, who are listening, and everybody else, we appreciate y'all very much. Bear Nation. Back to the article, quote, "This is the third heaviest freight corridor in the country," said Dr. Martin Lipinski, director of the University of Memphis Intermodal Freight Transportation Institute. Lipinski said the shutdown means it could take longer for things you have ordered online to arrive or things you may have not seen on store shelves. I think that we are well past the day of free 2-day Amazon shipping. I don't know about y'all where you live, but we never had 2-day shipping where we are. But we did have 3 or 4-day shipping. Free 2-day Amazon shipping in the country means free 2, 3, maybe probably more like 4-day shipping in the country. But now that's turned into you'll get it when you get it. How does 2 weeks sound? If it's going to go longer than 2 weeks, we'll let you know. Because of the unreliability of the just-in-time logistics system. It's the fragility of the system. And the reason I bring this up, the reason we're even talking about the Memphis I-40 bridge, it's not specifically because of the bridge. It's to illustrate the fragility of the system. One bridge in one place goes down, and now you've got not only a major land highway, I-40, huge east-west corridor, but you have a major riverine highway, the Mississippi, shut down because of a crack in a piece of metal. Now, granted, I've seen the pictures of the crack. It's quite the impressive crack. But guys, it's a crack in a piece of metal. Me and my buddies from Interstate Steel could get out there with a couple of angle grinders and some plate steel and some rivets, have that thing put together in a couple of days. And I'm not being facetious. I think in a couple of days we could have it fixed, honestly. Yet here we are, and they're saying it's going to be a year before we have this open again. It's the fragility of the system. And when you have a system that is as big and bulky as ours has become, it does not pivot well. Small things, small groups are more agile. They have the ability to pivot and react better than large groups of people. It's a large part of why we have individual rights and responsibilities here in the United States of America, because your ability to react to situations that directly affect your life is always going to supersede in accuracy and proficiency the government's ability to react to situations in your life that require assistance. So the I-40 bridge is yet another example of Rome burning. It's another indicator of the fragility of the system. Speaking of fragility, calls for peace yet again in the Israeli-Palestine conflict in the Middle East. Dog, you're gonna get walloped. Yep, you need to wallop them. By Nadal Al-Mughrabi, Dan Williams, and Stephen Farrell. Gaza, Jerusalem. From Reuters, Israel bombarded Gaza with airstrikes and Palestinian militants. Those two words did not need to go together. Let's try that again. Palestinian militants resumed cross-border rocket fire on Tuesday after a brief overnight lull during which the UN sent a small fuel convoy into the enclave, where it says 52,000 people are now displaced. Whoop his ass, honey. 2 Thai workers were killed and 7 people were wounded in a small rocket strike on an Israeli farm just over the Gaza border, police said. Gaza ruling Hamas Islamist group and Islamic Jihad claimed responsibility. You don't negotiate with terrorists, and this isn't just something that, George W. Bush says. I mean, really, the definition of terrorism is using violent extremism for political gain. That's exactly what's happening here. Hamas is 100% a terrorist organization that is willing to kill innocent people and claim responsibility for the killing of innocent people to advance their political motivations. Those people, to me, are the type of people that, given clear authorization and given a 100% undeniable burden of proof that, yes, these people are responsible for the death of innocents, you kick their door in at 3 o'clock in the morning and you shower them full of lead and anybody else that's with them that raises a weapon in anger. And you do this over and over and over and over and over again until nobody ever thinks of raising a weapon in anger again. Now, that's the one hand. The other side is this area of the world has been in conflict for 4,000 years and will continue to be. So, I in no way hold Israel at fault for defending themselves at all. Back to the article. We will continue as long as it takes in order to restore calm for all of Israel's citizens, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, reaffirming remarks he has made over the past several days, said in a video clip on Twitter. One other thing, quoting, I'm sure that all of our enemies around us see the price we are exacting for the aggression against us, and I'm certain they will have absorbed that lesson, he said, speaking in an airbase hangar with a warplane behind him. Hamas began firing rockets 8 days ago in retaliation for what it said were Israeli rights abuses against Palestinians in Jerusalem. The current hostilities are the most serious between the militant group and Israel in years. Gaza medical officials say 215 Palestinians have been killed, including 61 children and 36 women, and more than 1,400 wounded. Israeli authorities say 12 people have been killed in Israel, including 2 children. Nearly 450 buildings in the Gaza Strip have been destroyed or badly damaged, including 6 hospitals and 9 primary health care centers, the United Nations humanitarian agency said. Some 47,000 of the 52,000 displaced had fled to UN schools. Israel said more than 3,450 rockets had been launched at it from Gaza, some falling short and others shot down by the Iron Dome air defenses. And so now, all of a sudden, everybody wants to negotiate because a bunch of dumbasses launched 3,500 rockets, exacting a death toll of 14, which resulted in retaliations by Israel that have displaced more than 50,000 people and wounded or killed 1,400. So, if you want to do the math here, 100 to 1 is not exactly the type of thing that you'd call a victory if you were Hamas. Additionally, it just gets back to the idea that they are a terrorist organization. They are looking to create chaos and use violence to create political gain for themselves. They might get a truce, they might get a ceasefire, but peace in the Middle East, not likely to happen anytime soon. The Pentagon from RT.com, and this has been many places over the last several days, so for those who haven't seen it, the Pentagon uses the world's largest secret army of 60,000 undercover operatives to carry out domestic and foreign operations. No! Oh, right. Shh. Don't tell anybody, Bear Nation. Don't tell anybody. The U.S. military operates a vast network of soldiers, civilians, and contractors that it uses for clandestine missions both at home and abroad. Newsweek has claimed, adding that the force also manipulates social media. No shit. After a 2-year investigation, the outlet reported that the undercover army consists of around 60,000 people, many of whom use fake identities to carry out their assignments. Also, don't forget about the CIA to FBI, bro. The Pentagon's agents operate in real life IRL, bro, and online, with some even embedded in private businesses and well-known companies. Huh. The massive program, unofficially known as Signature Reduction, is reportedly 10 times the size of the CIA's clandestine service, making it the largest undercover force the world has ever known, Newsweek claimed. But the true scale and scope of the Shadow Army remains a closely guarded secret. But no one knows the program's total size, and Congress has never held a hearing on the military's increasing reliance on signature reduction. There appears to be very little or no transparency regarding the massive clandestine military force. Well, clandestine and transparency don't go hand in hand, just so we're all on the same page here. You can't have both of those things. If you start shining light on something, it's no longer clandestine. Doesn't work that way. So, I don't know if you...
You know, bridge fatigue could be the reason behind the crash on one of the I-40.
Why is my computer talking to me?
Beams. According to
Close
Dr.
your face,
Abdel,
computer. Nobody wants to talk to you, computer. So here's the deal. I don't know if you remember back in the day, many of you may be unaware, but before like digital computers existed, we had these things called transparencies, and they were sheets of plastic, that you would, very thin sheets that you would put on top of a projector, and it would shine light through it, and then that would project the image up onto a sheet, a cloth, a backdrop, the wall, whatever you had, a poncho. And the way a transparency would work is by shining light through it. And then you project whatever information that is all over the damn place. That doesn't go with clandestine at all. That's like the precise opposite of clandestine. So it's a cute little throwaway phrase in the article, but of course there's no transparency regarding the massive clandestine military force. Oil and water, bro, they don't go together. Even as its continued development, quote, challenges U.S. laws, the Geneva Convention, the Code of Military Conduct, and basic accountability, end quote, the outlet said. Around half of the signature reduction force is said to consist of special operations personnel who hunt down terrorists in war zones and work in unacknowledged hotspots such as North Korea and Iran. Military intelligence specialists reportedly make up the second largest part of the secret army. However, the fastest growing group within the Pentagon's clandestine force operates exclusively online. These, quote, cyber fighters assume fake identities to gather intelligence and search for publicly accessible information on the internet. They even reportedly take part in campaigns to influence and manipulate social media. Hundreds of these shadowy keyboard warriors oh my gosh, the image I just got in my brain. Hundreds of these shadowy keyboard warriors are employees of the National Security Agency, Newsweek reported. And according to the outlet, the network relies on 130 private companies and dozens of little-known and secret government agencies to support its operations. The businesses, which do everything from forging documents to creating disguises, collectively make over $900 million annually to help fund the secret army. Absolutely. This is nothing new. This has been done for aeons, ages, millennia. Because when you have your own independent revenue streams, you don't have to go beg Congress for money to go do the things, which, yes, does limit or completely remove congressional oversight, but also means that you can now operate in the black. It's called the black budget. This should be no surprise to anybody. Also, by the way, I got some turd that made a comment on the most recent video that I put up about a war belt. Is like, this dude wasn't in the infantry. He doesn't know anything about anything. Who does he think he is? First of all, never claimed to be in the infantry. But also, by the way, just so that we're all tracking over here, where did it go? The U.S. military operates a vast network of soldiers, civilians, and contractors. So no, never claimed to be in the infantry, bro. And good for you. If you were. If you're an 11 Bravo, roger that. You're awesome. Or whatever your friggin' MOS is. But it doesn't mean you have a monopoly on knowledge. Okay, roger that. Back to the article. While the Pentagon's agents typically remain under the radar, Newsweek claims there are several cases in which their covers have been blown. One such incident in 2013 involved American diplomat Ryan Fogel, who was arrested in Russia while allegedly trying to recruit a double agent. The case received wide media coverage and prompted considerable mockery due to the seemingly outdated spying paraphernalia that Fogel was in possession of, including wigs, sunglasses, a Moscow street map, a compass. Okay, compass and map, good to go. Wigs, good to go. Sunglasses, good to go. As well as an old Nokia phone. However, an expert who spoke with Newsweek said the phone was likely concealing a highly sophisticated communication device. So, now it's out in the open. The Pentagon has a secret army. Yeah, for real. We should all... what was that thing? Jade Helm? That's it. We're done for. Do I even have a live stream anymore? I do have a live stream. Fogel, you mean McLuffin? Good morning. Who dropped me $40? Lose your life. Bless you. Thank you. Jesus is Lord. Amen. I agree. BearIndependent.com. Listen, go check out bearindependent.com, please, and thank you. I mean, for real, unless you're driving, just stop what you're doing and go there right now. First of all, there's a contact page over here. So when everybody gets a little uppity about, Bear, how come you didn't even include this thing in the report? If you want your intelligence to go to me, you have to come here and drop it in the Intel contact form at bearindependent.com or use the email address intel@bearindependent.com. That gets your intelligence into the hands of my dance monkeys, which then collaborate, corroborate, collate, coefficient, coaxial, codependent, co-witness, and coordinate all of that into a report, which then comes to me, which you see here on the interwebs. Additionally, if you want to buy a first aid kit that'll actually save your life, unlike most of the junk that's out there, you click this store button. It takes you over here. You go to medical first aid kits, and you click around on, say, something like this, like the bear fact right here. Oh my gosh, he's going to talk about the bear fact again. Well, you know what, homie, if you don't like it, change the effing channel. But by the way, 17 lives in the last 14 months. So yeah, I know, maybe I'm a little proud of the fact that there's 17 people that aren't dead right now because they had a real first aid kit, not some bullshit first aid kit from some other company. So, I'm not going to give you the spiel. Handmade, made in America, guaranteed forever. 17 lives exceeds military specification. You can and should get them from our store, North American Rescue Components. If you break it, I'll send you another one. If you use the components to save a life, I'll send you more components. Period. The end. 17 lives. It's Stop the Bleed month, so you can use promo code Stop the Bleed at the store if you so like. They are the best. Period, the end. They are the best. 4 branches, 4 continents, 17 lives. In a little over a year, Bear Nation, in a little over a year, 17 lives that we know of, as well as countless uses to render aid for non-life-threatening injuries. So, bearindependent.com if you want a real first aid kit. If you want to carry junk around, that's fine. If you want to save $10 on a tourniquet that's going to break when you need it, and then somebody you love dies, go for it. That's your $10. That's your value proposition. You need to do the cost-benefit analysis on that. If you want to buy garbage, go for it. No, it's not. It's not going to work when you need it to. I created this kit because I couldn't find something that met or exceeded my expectations for life-saving medical equipment when I was operating, bro.
Transportation experts say having this bridge.
Where is it talking from? I won't stand for it.
Something's playing.
Is it still talking now?
I don't know. Everybody, hang on. I don't hear it now.
Good. Screw you, computer. Space Force commander sacked after claiming U.S. military is under assault from neo-Marxist critical race theory. And then there was a raucous game of Dungeons and Dragons played afterwards. The commander of a U.S. Space Force unit has been removed from his leadership role following a podcast appearance in which he claimed that Marxist ideologies like critical race theory were undermining the military. Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Lohmeyer made the provocative comments while speaking on Information Operation, a podcast hosted by conservative commentator and military veteran L. Todd Wood. Lohmeyer, who commanded the 11th Space Warning Squadron at Buckley Air Force Base, Colorado, appeared on the program to promote his self-published book, quote, Irresistible Revolution, Marxism's Goal of Conquest and the Unmaking of the American Military, end quote. That's the title of the book. The tome explores the neo-Marxist agenda that he claims is infiltrating the U.S. Armed Forces. And BT dubs, I have it on good authority from, I don't know, several 100,000 people, some of which happen to be personal friends of mine, that, yeah, there's a lot of this critical race bullcrap in the military currently. So, in a nutshell, Lohmeyer is correct. He told Wood that diversity training that he has received in the military borrows from critical race theory, which is rooted in Marxism. The officer pointed to initiatives rolled out by Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin aimed at combating extremism within the military ranks. He said that a booklet he received on the issue highlights the January 6th riots at the Capitol as an example of extremism, but fails to mention the civil unrest and violence linked to the Black Lives Matter movement. He told Wood that he didn't want to demonize Austin, but warned that the way the military was approaching these topics was divisive. Lohmeyer also criticized diversity and inclusion programs being implemented by the Department of Defense. He claimed that military personnel at his base were given reading materials that referred to the United States as a white supremacist nation. He further claimed that, and I've never been more proud to be Cherokee at this point in my life, so whatever. Or coupled with, kiss my hairy white ass. Because we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights, and among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And for those people who would say, well, at the time that statement was made, people of color were defined by the 3/5 agreement. Well, I'm telling you, A, that was done for political expediency, and B, I consider it to be bullshit, and C, when I say we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men, I mean all men, all of them. Well, what about women? You too. All of us are created equal and endowed by our creator with certain inalienable rights. Our creator, not our government, not our commanding officer, our creator with certain inalienable rights. And among these, here's some of them, not all of them, here's some of them, are life. You cannot take mine or those lives of the people that I love without serious ramification. Liberty. You don't get to tell me how to live my life, as long as what I'm doing is not infringing on your life. And the pursuit of happiness, which I get to define as I see fit, not based on the consensus of the whole, the mob mentality, or whatever the new thinking of the day is. That's for me to determine. But with that, those personal liberties, individual liberties, are individual rights and responsibilities as well. I have to conduct myself in such a way that I'm not infringing upon anybody else's life, liberty, or pursuit of happiness. But this is a rabbit hole that, frankly, I don't want to jump into right now. But yeah, the idea of critical race theory is 100% garbage. You're going to demonize me because I'm the white guy in the room? Utter bullshit. What happened to the content of character, not the color of skin? If Martin Luther King was here, he'd be whipping the shit out of all of these people, and he should be. Back to the article. He further claimed that neo-Marxist thought has been prevalent within the Democratic Party and that conservatives are increasingly being targeted for their political views and are labeled as extremists. Wow, really? Wow, what is that like? I have no idea what that's like. Stressing that he was only sharing his personal view, Lohmeyer said that he believes China was exploiting America's obsession with critical race theory in the hopes that it could win a war with Washington without firing a shot. He claimed that Beijing was fueling internal division on social media and that Chinese President Xi Jinping would love to see the United States rot like this from the inside. Of course. The Pentagon told media that the Space Force officer was relieved from his post due to comments he made during the podcast, resulting in a loss of confidence in his ability to lead. I don't know, sounds like he's got his poop in a group. An investigation has been launched to determine whether Lohmeyer's remarks constituted prohibited partisan political activity. So his comments would fall under prohibited partisan political activity, but describing the United States as a white supremacist nation wouldn't. Got it. Biden from realclearpolitics.com. Biden, ultimately, those who are not vaccinated will end up paying the price. And you've got links to all this in the description box below. You know what? Let's take a 30-second pause. Everybody breathe for a moment. $890 folks on the show. Woosah, Sarah Hoskins, good morning. Bama Buckeye, good morning, my brother. Hope everything is right in your world. Forge, good morning. Chris Haynes, Sergeant Storms, good morning. I'm okay at 95%. What up, Squash? Lumph, good morning. Tommy Salter, thank you, brother. Had a lot of people say, welcome to the bald guy haircut group, Bear. And I'm like, bro, do you even go back a few years? This is the original bear cut. So, Walter Ham, Sarah Connor, Sarah Hoskins, Parakeet Assault, good morning, brother. Let's get upset about Biden now. President Joe Biden delivered remarks on Monday that the administration's COVID-19 response and the status of the economy. Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. warned the people who do not get the vaccine will end up paying the price and called it a tragedy if an unvaccinated person gets COVID. What a tragedy. Back to that personal liberty, individual responsibility.
What about all the vaccinated people that are getting?
Yeah, but that's a great question, honey. Don't question the narrative. But what about all the vaccinated people who are getting COVID? That's not a tragedy. That's just to be expected. The tragedy is for the unvaccinated people who get it. Ultimately, those... Oh, wait, I skipped an entire paragraph. If the unvaccinated get the vaccine, they will protect themselves and other unvaccinated people around them. If they do not, states with low vaccination rates may see those rates go up, may see this progress reversed, Biden warned. Ultimately, those who are not vaccinated will end up paying the price, Biden said. The vaccinated will continue to be protected against severe illnesses, but others may not be if you're not vaccinated. But given that the vaccination is convenient and free, it will be a tragedy and a needless one, to see COVID cases among those who do not get vaccinated go up. Well, that's one hell of a run-on sentence there, Mr. Guy. We are not done fighting this virus, Joe said. We still have tens of millions left to vaccinate, but we are making significant progress. Well, interestingly enough, I am not getting on the bus. I am not going to the clinic, and you will be met with all the force of this pink Red Ryder BB gun. Daisy, I'm sorry, it's a Daisy. Well, ain't you a Daisy? That's right. And from theconversation.com, let's zoom in here a little bit. Could the AstraZeneca vaccine cause Guillain-Barre Syndrome? We don't know yet, but there's minimal cause for concern. And this is a long-ass article that you have the link to in the description. What is Guillain-Barre? Occurs when the immune system attacks healthy nerve cells. In about 2/3 of the cases, it follows a viral or bacterial infection. The most common infection linked to the syndrome is the bacteria Campylobacter jejuni, which infects the gastrointestinal tract and commonly causes diarrhea. Cha-cha-cha. We've also seen it occur after infection with viruses such as the Zika virus and the human immunodeficiency virus, or HIV. It has been linked to COVID-19 too, but we don't have much data on this yet. The reason for the link between Guillain-Barre syndrome and infection is complex, but essentially scientists believe it's caused by something called molecular mimicry. This occurs when the structure on the surface of pathogens resemble or mimic structures on your cells. For Guillain-Barre Syndrome, this relates to sugar structures or glycans on the myelin sheath or the insulating covering on the neurons that enable them to transmit nerve impulses. For people with Guillain-Barre, these sugar structures on their nerve cells appear similar to sugar-containing molecules on the surface of some bacteria or viruses. As a result, antibodies generated to target the infection also attack nerve cells, or autoantibodies, destroying the myelin sheath nerves need to conduct signals. This stops muscles from working properly. In a nutshell, people with Guillain-Barre, when their immune system attacks a virus, it also attacks their nerves, and when their nerves don't work, their muscles don't work, because their autoimmune response believes that their healthy nerve cells are virus cells or bacteria cells. So, how could AstraZeneca be linked to Guillain-Barre? The long and short of this article, blood clots linked to the AstraZeneca vaccine are also thought to be an autoimmune-driven illness. This has opened up the possibility autoimmune reactions can be triggered by the AstraZeneca vaccine. So it's possible that the AZ vaccine can trigger autoimmune response. What?
Something has a speaker. It's on again.
You know, I just don't care.
Okay.
I just don't care anymore. So, the AstraZeneca creates can create an autoimmune response. And then additionally, somewhere in here, it said that it uses the same type of sugar. It has this sugar in it. So, what am I trying to say here? Because it has this sucrose in it, if you have a predisposition to see that sugar as an infection which your autoimmune response attacks, it could then also attack your nerves, which would become Guillain-Barre Syndrome, which could cause this. So the mechanisms that allow something like this to happen within your body is what's discussed in this article. The likelihood of it happening apparently is very low, when you're giving out millions and tens of millions of doses, even if you have a statistically very low likelihood of something bad happening, you're still going to have 10, hundreds, thousands of incidents of something very bad happening because of the massive scale at which you're operating. All right, last on the docket. Before we talk about refuge training, we're going to go over here, read the silver linings. Quote, we've been working on getting our garden in order and have had good luck with the seed we saved from years past this year. We even have potatoes ready to plant from sprouted eyes. Wonderful. And my wife is going back to work today after a bout with COVID in which she got pretty sick but was never in imminent danger. Praise the Father. I've had no symptoms. Praise the Father. We neither have been vaccinated. If that's not a silver lining, I don't know what is. Fabulous. By the way, send your silver linings to intel@bearindependent.com. Refuge training schedule. Go to refugetraining.com. You got a class right now in Moore, Oklahoma. There's a handful of seats left in that. If you want to go to the Moore, Oklahoma class, that is the 23rd, which is 4 days from now. That is this Sunday. Handful of seats left. Paola, Kansas, which is just southwest of Kansas City, Kansas, which is June 13th. You've got morning and afternoon classes you can check out there. And then Tallahassee, Florida, which is June 6th. You've got morning and afternoon classes there as well. Myself, my wife, Angery American, and his wife, Mel, will be there. We are also going to be tailgating in the parking lot in between classes. So I'm going to bring a cooler full of beverages and a cooler full of meat. And if you want to hang out and grill and chill with Bear and Angery American in between the morning class and the afternoon class, we'll be there. So come on out, come see us. And come to the class. This is for people who are attending the class, not for people that want to randomly show up and chill. So, Tallahassee, Florida class. We'll be there. It's going to be a great time. All of the trainings are awesome. So I would strongly encourage you that if you, step one is to get a medical kit. Step two is to actually understand how to use the medical kit. So if you don't know how to use your medical equipment, please come and get with us, and we'll teach you how to do that. Lastly, several of y'all have been asking for updates on my cousin Rachel's house that caught fire. You guys thus far have raised $5,170. Bless y'all. Thank you, Bear Nation. You guys are totally badass, and I really, really, really appreciate you. So if you could go there and check it out, if you feel so led, go there and check it out. You got a link in the description. And that's our show for today. So happy Wednesday. Bless y'all. Shalom.